Artist here. He's going to be our TA for this class. If your pencil breaks, it rolls under the bench in front of you, you need a new piece of paper, anything like that, raise your hand nice and high and he will come help you out. He's also going to show you your exit door. So if you go ahead and look back up to those same 3 doors you came in through, that one on the far right is going to be easiest to give a big old push to if you do need to leave the classroom at any time. You know, just in case there's like a bathroom emergency or a churro emergency. They happen, I get it. If you do need to exit, it's going to be that far right door. All right. Who's never been here before? Do I have any first timers in the academy? Amazing! Welcome to all of my new folks and welcome to all of my alumni as well. If you are new, take a look at the back of your pencils. What are we missing? Eraser! That's right, that is on purpose. It is not because of budget cuts. And it's because what we are doing in this class is called rough sketching. So what that means is we're going to start our sketches really light and loose and messy. And we're only going to go back and darken up the stuff that we really like and that we really want to keep. And by doing that, those lighter lines are just going to kind of fade into the background, so we don't need erasers. We're going to be drawing the same way that the animators have at the studio for 100 years. So, character we're drawing today. You could say that this girl is literally on fire. She lives in Element City. Anybody know who I'm talking about? Ember! We're going to be drawing Ember from Elemental. Are you guys ready to get started? Oh, very tentative yes, but let's do it anyway. All right. So, before I start my drawing, I want to make sure that I have some space above, because Ember's got that really tall flames of hair, so I want to make sure I got space up top for her hair. So I'm going to start a little bit lower on my page. We're going to need a little bit of space below to add in a little bit of her neck and shoulders. She's going to start out with an oval. It's wider than it is tall. You can think of like a little dinner roll or something, then maybe like a little potato. I am locking my wrist and my elbow, and really using my shoulder to get these nice, big, somewhat circular motions to make this oval. As you can see, I just went around like 6 or 7 times. I didn't just pick one shape and go with it. I made tons of them so that I can pick this, the best shape that I like a little bit later. I'm going to add in some guidelines to place in Ember's features. I'm going to start by cutting this little oval right in half from top to bottom. And then I'm going to add another guideline that's going to be a curved guideline going across. It's going to cut out just barely the bottom section of my oval. This is going to be our eye line for Ember. So it's a little bit curvy. It's going to go back and forth from left to right, just cutting out that very bottom section. All right, so now we've got a potato with Kylo Ren's lightsaber going through it. Yay, looks nothing like Ember though, right? So let's start adding some features to actually make it look more like her and less just like a random dinner roll shape. So we're going to start by adding a little bit of her neck and shoulders. So I'm going to jump to the bottom of this oval. I want to add what looks like a kind of little curvy V, almost like a little funnel shape. These little parenthesis shapes on either side of that vertical guideline. They're not going to touch in the middle. There's going to be a little bit of a gap there. That's for her neck. And then for her shoulders, something that I like to do is I'm going to do something called drawing through. So I'm going to draw a big stretched out arch shape that cuts right through the bottom of that shape that I just drew. Then I'm going to go back and only lock in the outside pieces. If you've never been here before, if you've never heard that term before, locking in just means pushing a little bit harder on my pencil to really darken up the lines that I really like, and that's what's going to make those lighter ones fade away. So Ember has a little outfit that she wears during the movie, and since she is made of fire, a lot of the cloth would just totally burn up. So she wears kind of like a chainmail outfit. So we're going to draw in her little dress that she wears. First thing I'm going to do is on this left-hand side, I'm going to add what looks like a backwards number 7 that kind of cuts across her neck and a little bit below it. And that's going to make a little collar for her. And then I'm going to add another number 7 on the other side. Because she has a little dress with a little bit of like a hood that she puts up sometimes, so that's going to be her little hood. And then her dress is a little bit of a tank dress. So I'm going to add these 2 diagonal lines on either side of that shoulder shape to make it obvious that we're missing the sleeves there. Since it is made out of that chainmail material, I'm going to add a little bit of texture by just adding a couple of these crosshatched lines. And then if you'd like for a little bit of extra credit, you can go ahead and shade in her outfit since it is like a darker gray color compared to the rest of her. She shines very bright considering she's made out of fire. And that's going to be it for the bottom section of Ember. And now we're going to move up and start working on those flames. So the way that the flames work, so that's kind of interesting with Ember as a character. Flames and fire are constantly moving and constantly changing. So your drawing doesn't have to look like mine at all. You can give Ember whatever hairstyle you'd like. Usually the kind of key that we go by is that usually the little peak of fire in the middle is usually the tallest. So you can follow along with me, or you can do your own thing, totally up to you. It is your artistic liberty to choose whatever you'd like to do. I'm going to start by just extending out this oval shape just a little bit off to the left here, just so I have a little bit more space to work with. And then I'm going to add just a combination of some straight and curvy lines to make a bunch of little flicks of fire coming off of her head. And while we do this, I'm going to give you a couple of fun facts about this movie. This movie was absolutely lovely. It's Pixar's first and only, at this point, rom-com. Although I've had some people point out that you could call Lightning McQueen and Sally pretty much rom-com characters. Like, he travels from a big city to a city in the middle of nowhere, falls in love. I feel like that's like a pretty standard Hallmark movie. But this film was the first and only Pixar rom-com. It was inspired by a lot of rom-com movies such as like Who's Coming to Dinner, Moonstruck, You've Got Mail, stuff like that. And the director and writer of this film was a guy by the name of Peter Sohn, and he's been in Pixar for quite a while. He's done quite a bit of stuff with Pixar. He's done quite a few voice acting roles as well as directorial roles. He also has been in Pixar for a long time, so he's a lot of visual inspiration for different characters. I've got a picture of him up here, actually. So, these are all of the roles that he's voice acted. So we've got Squishy from Monsters University, Emile from Ratatouille, Socks from the new Lightyear film. This is a character from Partly Cloudy, the short. I don't remember exactly his name. And then these are the 2 films he's directed. But probably my most favorite fun fact about Peter Sohn is that he was also the visual inspiration for Russell. So that's Russell. They did use his baby pictures when designing the character, which I think is really cute. So now his baby pictures are forever immortalized in Up, which I think is awesome. But yeah, so that's Peter Sohn. That's the guy who wrote this movie. And when he was writing this film, he really based it quite a bit off of his own life. So if you think about Ember's story, she moves to Element City with her parents and they open up a little store that's very similar to his family. So they all immigrated from Korea and they immigrated to the States and they opened a little fruit and veggie shop. And they really wanted Peter to take over the store. But he kind of, once he moved to the States, he found this amazing love for film and storytelling. And so he decided to go chase his dreams instead. So this film was really a love letter to his parents for constantly being so supportive of him and all of the things he went through. Sadly, they were not around to see the finished film, as it took quite a long time for them to make it. But I do think it's very, very sweet that this is kind of, a dedication to his parents for all of the love and support that they gave him over the years. I'm adding in just a couple more little flames to Ember. I'm going to stop over here on this right-hand side. And then I'm also locking in the bottom area of her chin as well. And then since this fire and flame is constantly moving, I'm going to add a little bit of these little, almost little flames that are kind of popping off of her head. You can add as many or as few of these as you like. That was one of the most interesting things about when this film was being created, is that the animation team had to work really closely with the visual effects team. Usually when we're creating an animated film that has visual effects, usually the animation will happen and then they'll send it off to the VFX team and the VFX team will take it from there and add all of the effects and then the movie will be done. But because these characters are changing constantly, like you think of Ember who's made of fire, Wade who's made of water, they're constantly moving and changing. So they had to work really, really closely with the VFX department in order to make that look really realistic and make all of the movements look coherent. So they had to work really, really closely together, which is not something that usually happens a lot. Alright, I'm going to give you all a couple more seconds to catch up with this fire part. Again, if it doesn't look exactly like mine, that's totally okay. Everybody has their own individual art style. Maybe you want your Ember to have like a mohawk. That's totally cool. I would love to see that. But yeah, just take a couple more seconds to kind of catch up to this point. Once I see a couple more eyes looking up, I'll kind of move on. But yeah, this film was actually really, really cool. They did have to develop a new language for this film. It's a language called Fire-ish, which I think is really funny. It's like fire-ish. But they did have to create a whole new language, kind of like there's a whole language in Star Wars, and in, I think, does Game of Thrones have one? Yeah, there we go. That's the other one. Sorry, I'm not a Game of Thrones fan. Okay. Alright, I'm seeing a couple more eyes looking up, so let's go ahead and jump into her facial features. So she, of course, is made of fire, as we've established, so everything on her face is also made of fire. So her nose is a little bit of a flick of fire as well. So to draw in her nose, I'm going to go right to where these two lines intersect. Right above this horizontal curved line that we've got going on. I'm going to kind of almost mimic this funnel shape that we did for her neck, but I'm going to put it the opposite way, so flipping it upside down. So I've got kind of this little curvy V, but upside down for her nose. And it's a little bit pointy because it's that kind of like a little flick of fire that's popping off of her face. And then for her eyes, for the positioning, something that I like to do is on either side of that nose, on that horizontal line, I like to add two little dots to make sure that that spacing from the nose is nice and even. And now it looks like you've got a little derpy Ember on your page. Which, if you wanted to leave her like that, totally go for it. But if you wanted to open up those eyes for her and kind of wake her up a little bit more. From each of those points, I'm going to stretch out. I'm going to start over here on the left-hand side. I'm going to stretch up what looks like a big stretched out parenthesis shape. It's going to go about halfway up in this space that we've got above this horizontal line. I'm going to do that on either side, adding in these little parenthesis shapes that look like they're curving away from the nose. And then her eyes are kind of these almost like almond shapes. So to cap off the top, I'm going to add a stretched out rainbow shape that curves up and out towards the side of her face. And then once I've got those tops of the eyes, they're not going to connect fully back down to that dot that we started with, but I'm just going to add another slightly curved line coming from the end of that little rainbow back down to that horizontal line. So there's a little bit of a gap in between here. And now we've got an Ember who looks like she came off the Haunted Mansion, right? She looks a little spooked, a little scared. So before we wake her up, first thing I've got to add is her beautiful lashes. So she's got quite beautiful little lashes. I like to add like 3 clumps of these little lashes by adding these little flicks of like almost little like blade of grass shapes, kind of. And usually the one on the end is the longest. So I'm just going to add 3 of these on either side. And one thing that I've learned both from drawing and from makeup is that eyeliner fixes everything. So if the eyes are looking a little wonky, add more eyeliner. It'll fix your problems. That is my makeup tip to you. Alright, now let's go ahead and start to wake up this character. That's what we call it in animation when we actually add in the pupils for the character. So you can get creative if you want to put like some other shaped pupil in her eyes. Maybe you want to put some hearts because she sees Wade. Or maybe you want to put little like water droplets too, something like that, stars, dollar signs, whatever you're feeling. She can be looking any direction you'd like, at the sky, at the ground, at your neighbor. Maybe you want her to look like Hey Hey from Moana with eyes going in different directions. Totally up to you. I'm going to just give her the regular oval pupils, and they're going to sit in these inside corners of these eyes. And they're going to stretch all the way from that top rainbow shape down to that horizontal guideline. But no matter what shape or size you choose to make these pupils, you want to make sure that they are the darkest part on your page and really heavily shaded in. Eyes are really where we draw connections with our characters, so it's really important that these are very, very much the darkest part on your page, so they really capture the audience's attention if someone were to look at your drawing. So I'm really pushing down hard on my pencil to darken up those eyes so that they're nice and dark. Alright, now that I've got those pupils, we gotta give her some eyebrows. So she is a pretty confident character towards the end of the film, so we're gonna give her a little bit of like a smirk face. So we're gonna have one eyebrow raised and one a little bit closer to her eye. So above this eye on the left here, I'm gonna add this stretched out arch shape. That's about, it kind of lines up with the top of that oval shape. It's going to be this stretched out rainbow that goes above that eye. And then you could leave it like this if you want, but Ember missed the Y2K pencil thin brow face. So we're going to go ahead and thicken that up a little bit. Just add a little bit more depth to it. And then for the eyebrow on the right hand side, it's going to be a little bit flatter and kind of resting almost right above that eye. So it's a very flattened out U shape. I'm going to go ahead and sketch that in and then thicken that up as well. And then we are missing one final thing for our Ember. What are we missing? Our mouth, yeah. So you can give her any expression you'd like. I'm going to give her a nice smile. She is a pretty happy gal now that she's got her favorite guy with her. So we're just going to draw a stretched out U shape that's right in the middle of this section between the nose and the bottom of the chin. And then I also like to add a little bit of thickness to the bottom just so it looks like she's got a little bit of a lip going on. But that is going to be pretty much it for our drawings of Miss Ember. Anything else you want to add is totally up to you and considered extra credits. I like to add some blush to her cheeks and a little bit of shading to the tops of those flames. They kind of get slightly lighter as they go back towards her face. I'm just going to add a little bit of shading up top and make it a little bit darker the further up I go. But the final mark that any artist is going to need on their page is going to be their signature. So go ahead and find a spot on your drawing to sign your name nice and proud because you have just drawn your very own portrait of the one and only Ember from Elemental. How did we do, guys? Pretty good? Nice. Did you guys have fun? Yeah. All right. That's what I love to hear. The best part about drawing is just having fun with it. We've got a little bit of time, so before we get out of here, I would love to do a quick art show. So on the count of 3, I would love for you guys to turn those boards around so I can see all of these wonderful drawings of Ember. Okay, you guys ready? 1, 2,